Traders, in this week's video, crisis averted, a debt ceiling deal has been reached. 2, if the markets are truly bullish, we should be finishing higher. And 3, today's format is different. Let me know your thoughts. So looking at the economic calendar for the week ahead, I'll keep this relatively brief. Really, yes, we do have we have consumer data coming out for Australia, for Europe, for Germany specifically, and we have GDP data month on month coming out for Canada. So all of that, I think, is going to create some volatility in the markets. Really, it's going to start to ramp up as we head towards ADP, so especially non-farm and especially non-farm payroll on Friday. That's usually where the biggest volatility is going to be. Keep in mind that, remember that usually what happens with non-farm is it swings both ways at least once or twice, which means you get a W shape or you get an M shape, but the point is the market swings very well and it really only tends to settle within about 2 hours. Then it'll start to settle, and often what it can do at that point is just move and just drive until the markets close. The other thing I was going to mention is, of course, yes, a deal has been reached. It looks like it's a very good deal for, relatively speaking, it's the best kind of deal that could have come out of this situation, being realistic. And the question really now is to get all the votes for it. But it should go through, and so basically this crisis should be averted. It is a fabricated crisis, doesn't have to be the case, but there's a lot of politics at play, obviously. And so hopefully it just means we can all move on with our lives and we don't have to obsess about the drama that's being shoved in front of our faces the whole time. And that being said, let's move on to the charts. So the first thing I want to highlight is that the markets did not seem that wide. I really think that's an important observation. The markets just don't seem that wide at the moment. They're operating at the low levels and they didn't seem to be that obsessed about what was going to happen with the debt ceiling. So they really just, from, let's call it Wall Street, just didn't seem to think it was going to be a real thing. So I just think that's a lesson going forwards. Let's have a look at that dollar index. So the dollar index is very bullish. It has broken above 104. However, it is overextended. All right, looks very nice and bullish on the weekly, but it is overextended and on the monthly. My expectation this week, or at least that it's fair, is that we should see a retracement this week and therefore potentially seeing it heading down, which means that in turn, euro dollar could potentially see its way up to these previous lows, which sits around 107.62, or potentially even as far as 108, or even up to this level of resistance. So that is something I'll be preparing for. And then I'm going to say, depending on how high it goes, or depending with that, we'll see whether that trend is going to stay intact and potentially continue to resume to the downside, but that is a fair assessment. Let's just have one more look here at sterling in the UK. Similar thing, it's struggling to get above this 1.2375 level. That weekly trend is still bullish, still intact. The monthly trend is still pushing higher. But really this week, I think it's fair to say that although we might get some dollar weakness, that the overall dollar strength is, as a concept, is still very much on the table. Let's move across and have a look at dollar yen. So dollar yen, very overextended, incredibly bullish. This is very similar behavior to what we saw throughout 2022. When we had dollar strength, we also had the yen pairs moving like crazy. And they are looking incredibly similar. The behavior here is looking very much intent on going back up to those old highs at this time. So what I'll be looking for are shorter term retracements, potentially on the 4 hour, not so much on the daily, but looking for pullbacks and then looking for trend continuations to the upside there. And so running through my favorite pairs in currencies for the week, I'm going to look at all of the yen crosses, euro yen looking incredibly bullish here, looking for pullbacks, trading on a daily basis as well. You see sterling here has had a nice consolidation, taken off. So any kind of pullbacks on that 4 hour could provide some continuation moves to the upside. Aussie yen as well, sitting up here with a nice bullish candle just below level. I'd like to see a breakout. It'll have some resistance up ahead, but looking particularly good. Of note also are the Kiwi pairs. They've also got some potential trends in them, but this is very nice. Kiwi yen as well, pulling back, nice little inside bullish candle here, moving averages, everything looking very nice. This is a possible move to the upside and could offer some nice reward to risk. CAD yen as well, also consolidation breakouts, all looking very nice there as well. Swissy yen, finally, all of these trends looking very nice and intact. This is basically what is going to take up most of my occupation, or most of my time this week. Occupy my time is what I was trying to say. Then just having a look at gold, it is definitely, we are on the final lap, guys, and so it looks as though there's a fair chance we might see this close as a strong bearish candle. If that is the case, then a move down to 1900 for gold this coming week is feasible. The market would have to move all the way back up to remove this red before we close in order to negate that. Right now, all of this exhaustion in the run up to that, plus the final potential bearish close, would indicate a move down, possibly not a move much lower than that, but certainly a move in the immediate vicinity down to that. Okay, then having a look at crude oils. Crude oil I find very interesting. We've got a series of higher lows, nice little bullish candle here. To me, again, possibility that we could see this move up. It doesn't want to put the candle where I want it. It just looks like there's not a lot going on the monthly. I don't really like the look of it on the whole, but it's just highlighting that the daily, I beg your pardon, is looking nice and bullish. Moving on to the indices. The indices here also responding to a very gentle trend line here. They're also looking relatively normal on the monthly, just sideways motion for the most part, but principally still above that 50-period moving average on the weekly. And so yes, this week, if we start to break this downward trend line, we start to move up above here, especially if we break these highs, I would expect this to actually finish on a relatively bullish note. The S&P as well, continuing to look really good. The weekly to me does look really nice and bullish. It's not closing that much higher, but I do think it's trying to break out, and this could very well be the setup for that. And the monthly looks fine. So S&P, very happy with that. The Nasdaq, of course, very, very happy with that. That's taking off, and that's looking incredibly good and happy. So Nasdaq and S&P are sitting very much in a bull market and a bull trend at this time. Okay, the Russell 2000 sitting at the bottom of its range, not really sure what to do, but once it closes above this 1825 level, it's going to really start to move. So once we see that happening, we know for sure. The FTSE as well, finding some support here, just below that 7,600 level. You can see it's very crisp on that monthly level. Once it breaks through that, it's of course going to be off to the races. If we look at the DAX, we can see the DAX is trying to close and continue to move above this level. I was looking for a pullback into this level, but actually I would say this potentially qualifies. I'm just going to mark this little green candle here as well. Also very nice green bullish finish here. Now, yes, there are talks of a possible, that there's more crisis to come and there are bubbles in certain areas. And I think what makes this different, ladies and gentlemen, is that it does appear to me, I think it's fair to say that there are possibly bubbles in some sectors or in some parts of it, but I don't necessarily, I'm not convinced at this time that the entire market is rotten to the core in the same way that we had between 2007 and 2009. So I'm going to continue to go for these bullish signals as they show, because they're definitely there. It's not being imagined. If we have a look, for example, let's say the ASX, not really looking so bullish at the moment, not terrible, still sitting above that 50-period moving average. But then we look at the Nikkei, and the Nikkei is looking absolutely fantastic. It's actually gone parabolic. So nice little pullback here. I'd like to see it come back to that 30,000 level, or even come back to retest the outside of this range, but it still looks fantastic. And so if we don't get any shock news, anything unexpected, the markets, to me, make sense that they will continue to move on. Moving on to individual equities. Apple looks great. Really nice little double bottom here. Very nice and bullish. Continues to push up. Looks pretty good. It's at these all-time highs. The question is, can it push on and go beyond that? It is a possibility. Amazon, to me, also looking really good. Very nice, clean pullback and a takeoff. 125 sitting up in its next level, and overall looking very nice and healthy. There's no doubt about it. There are no technical red flags here. ARC Innovation as well, just commenting on that because I've been watching it. There we go, is another little bullish candle here. Struggling a little bit with this level here around that 40 level. But overall, it is desperately trying to turn around. There's no doubt in my mind it is trying to turn around. I'm going to actually move this level up here. It is desperately trying to get outside of that range. This week, then on Tesco, I'll be looking for a pullback. This is now the area where I'm looking to see if we do produce some bullish signals or a bullish weekly candle. I can see here there's a bit of a double top, bearish divergence, and therefore this might possibly find that it gets knocked a little bit low. So just a couple of things for me to see. I can see both the good and the bad. Berkshire Hathaway now testing a level of support. If it is bullish and it's going to hold, it should be able to work its way back up from here. And again, anything less than the size of this red candle on the monthly to me would be a nice bullish finish. And here also finding support on that level of resistance. I'd like to see it close a little bit higher there. Coca-Cola, my expectation as well. This is a good area for it to turn around. You can just see where the moving averages are. Series of higher lows on the monthly, and this is where the weekly is. So this is a crucial one. I really want to see Coca-Cola push a little bit higher and finish above that level. If it doesn't, that could be something to pay attention to. General Motors is interesting. This is what I would call an accumulation phase. Just a lot of sort of head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, W patterns, a lot of things going on in here. This is very desperate to break out and move to the upside. So I'm just going to mark that. But I expect at some point soon a very good possibility this could burst to the upside and certainly work its way up to the top of that range. Meta continues to look good. It's a good quality trend. It keeps gapping up. It doesn't necessarily have to close the gaps on those, not necessarily the way they have to work, and overall looking incredibly bullish. All right, so it's now broken above this last level of support. Looks as though it has room to move up to 300. That's a relatively decent amount of space, and so I'll be looking for some nice pullbacks. MACD looks fine. I'll be looking for pullbacks and looking for re-entries. Something I should mention, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually going to be away. I won't necessarily be at my desk for the next week from let's just see what that date would be. I might very well be away from the 4th until the 11th, and we'll see. So I may not do a weekly video at that time either. So looking at NVIDIA, we had a big gap up. That all looks really good, but I would say now we're starting to enter dangerous territory. Obviously, this is a crowd candle. This is what I would call overextended for sure. We're far away from the moving averages here. We've got definite bearish divergence there. We're looking very good and overextended on multiple time frames. So this is one potential scenario in which this can play out, is that NVIDIA continues to push up but starts to stall in this area. So I'm going to mark this area as a possible area in which I would expect it to stall. If that's the case, then at some point I'll expect it to come back down and cool off a little bit. But overall, this shows a great amount of potential. Again, even if it did manage to burst its way up to 500, but the size of this candle is already the biggest one that it's ever had. And so just, going off its previous history, it should start to cool off in this area now, possibly. Let's just have a look at that and see. But overall, I'm very optimistic. I've no doubt that its investment in AI has played a big part in the enthusiasm around this, and good for you guys. Well done. Netflix now definitely starting to look more and more bullish. I'm very happy with this, starting to look very good. It is the most successful streaming service to date, despite a lot of negative press, but actually is right now the main one that is currently making money. So good for them. Just to mention here on Spotify, also looking a little bit tighter, looking good to break out. Overall, looks nice and healthy and bullish. So I just keep tags on Tesla, just highlighting it started to break above this. I'm going to remove this. It's now starting to look more bullish than bearish, but don't forget it is still sitting in the danger zone, still currently a lower high, and for the most part is just potentially in a bit of a bull flag. We can see the MACD starting to turn bullish, the monthly chart starting to look bullish. So there's a lot of bullish signs here, but really I'm not going to relax until it gets above this level, gets outside of this zone. And also just adding here that Vanguard is comfortably breaking outside of this danger zone as well, and looks like it's good to continue. So again, lots of bullish signs. Great. These are good signals. If we're not really, I'm looking at Treasury notes at the moment, if we're not really seeing a lot of love on that, not a lot of that buying in it, we could see battling with that level. These could be potential signs that there's no real interest in it because they don't see any need to diversify away from stocks, which hints again that at this time, there's just still bulls in the market. Whether we're due a bigger correction on some level or not just means that the enthusiasm for stocks is still there. And finishing very quickly on cryptos. Nice little double bottom here, looking nice and bullish. It's a great weekly candle, very nice. For the most part, if we break high, we've got a good chance of breaking through this level of resistance at 30,000 for Bitcoin, and Ethereum is also starting to look nice and bullish. So crypto's also looking nice and decent there. And that's very much it from me. I wanted to keep this one short. I want to try it. I want to focus just on the charts that I like the look of and not really waste any time kind of speaking of charts that don't really offer much signals. And I understand that. But if there's something specific you really like me to give weekly commentary on, or just another type of commentary on any type of that or feedback, please just let me know. I know that some of you have asked me questions in the comments. I know about ChatGPT. I need to do a second video on that. I will try to do that tomorrow. And a lot of you have been asking me questions in the comment section I haven't replied to. I apologize if you haven't seen a response to it. Generally, I'm not ignoring it. I need to get round to that. So on that note, ladies and gents, please have a safe week, fantastic week, and may the weather be fantastic. Might the sun be shining on your face.